All right, you beautiful bastards. Welcome back to another deep dive. And this time,
This time?
we're taking a trip down memory lane
Yeah.
with a show that's near and dear to our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Blackadder.
Indeed, one of Britain's most beloved and enduring sitcoms.
Now, you might have caught a few episodes here and there,
Right.
chuckled at Baldrick's cunning plans.
Sure.
But let's cut the crap, all right.
Okay.
We're going dap,
All right.
exploring why this show,
Yeah.
with its ridiculous costumes and anachronistic jokes,
I mean,
still has us pissing ourselves with laughter.
yeah.
After all these years,
It's true.
we've got a Blackadder expert here.
I'm here.
Someone who can tell a queen from a queef.
Oh, absolutely.
Ready to get this party started.
Absolutely. Fire away.
All right, for those of you who've been living under a rock,
Right.
give us the lowdown. What the hell is Blackadder all about?
Well, at its core, Blackadder is a series of 4 distinct seasons, each set in a different historical period. From the medieval muck of the Middle Ages to the trenches of World War I.
Right.
Each season features the same core characters.
Yeah.
The eternally scheming Edmund Blackadder
Right.
and his dim-witted sidekick Baldrick.
So it's like a fucked up family tree of incompetence stretching across centuries.
Precisely. And it's that clever use of recurring actors.
Right.
Playing different but often similarly named characters.
Yeah.
That adds another layer of comedic brilliance. You're left wondering if these idiots are all related,
Right.
doomed to repeat the same mistakes across generations.
Okay, so we've got the basic premise down.
Right.
Now let's talk about the first series,
Yeah.
the Blackadder.
The Blackadder.
How the hell did that even come about?
It's a good question.
And how does it stack up against the later seasons?
Well, what's fascinating about the Blackadder is that it's a bit of an anomaly.
Okay.
Imagine Blackadder not as the sharp-tongued cynic we know and love,
Mm-hmm.
but as a bumbling, idiotic prince.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me the original Blackadder was a total asshat?
Kind of, yeah.
That doesn't sound like the Blackadder I remember.
Exactly. It was a completely different vibe.
Huh.
The humor was broader slapstick, even.
Really?
And Edmund was more concerned with pies than with power.
Interesting.
There were a few reasons for this shift.
Okay.
As the series progressed, budget cuts forced them to abandon their initial lavish location filming
I see.
for a more confined studio setting.
So they were forced to get creative.
They had to.
And that's when the magic really started happening.
Precisely this, coupled with the arrival of co-writer Ben Elton,
Ben Elton. Okay.
really changed the game.
Ah, Ben Elton, the king of sharp wit and even sharper insults.
Exactly. Elton injected a contemporary satirical edge into the writing,
Right.
helping to refine Blackadder's signature cynical voice
Okay.
and adding a layer of social commentary that resonated with audiences. It was with Blackadder II that the show truly found its footing.
Okay.
Its unique blend of wordplay, historical satire, and sheer silliness.
All right. Let's dive into that humor. Because it's not your average sitcom fare.
Yeah.
It's like they took Shakespeare,
Yeah.
gave him a few pints of lager,
Gave him a few pints.
and then let him loose on British history.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate description.
Right.
The Shakespearean influence is especially noticeable in the first series.
Yeah.
Its more theatrical style and elevated language.
Interesting.
They even credited Shakespeare in the end credits for additional dialogue.
Damn, they were riffing off the bard from the get-go. That's ballsy.
Absolutely. But as the series progressed,
Yeah.
the language became more modern, the pacing quicker, and the humor sharper.
Mhm.
Always walking that fine line between clever wordplay and outright absurdity.
Hey, give us a taste for that Blackadder wit.
Oh,
Hit us with a, quote, a running gag. Something that'll make us snort our beer out of our noses.
well, there's the classic line from Blackadder 2 Sec where Blackadder describes Lord Percy as having the brain of a very small walnut.
Brutal but brilliant.
And who could forget Baldrick's endless parade of cunning plans,
Oh, yeah.
each one more ludicrous than the last?
Those cunning plans were about as effective as a chocolate teapot.
That's true.
But they always cracked me up. What about those recurring gags?
Right.
The ones that feel like you're in on a private joke.
Well, there's the running theme of historical inaccuracy, with Blackadder constantly pointing out the absurdities of the past.
Yeah.
Like the Queen's supposed virginity.
Right.
A joke that was pretty damn edgy for its time.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to push the boundaries back then.
Yeah.
Speaking of pushing boundaries, let's talk about the characters.
Okay.
You've got a whole cast of weirdos and misfits played by some of the biggest names in British comedy.
Absolutely, from Stephen Fry's wonderfully sycophantic Lord Melchett
Right.
to Hugh Laurie's hilariously dim-witted Prince George. Each character brings their own unique brand of madness to the screen.
Yeah. And then there's Tony Robinson as Baldrick.
Of course.
The eternally optimistic yet hopelessly incompetent servant who somehow manages to steal every scene he's in.
Baldric, the lovable turnip-loving idiot. He's like the Forrest Gump of British history.
Yeah. Always stumbling into the most ridiculous situations.
And yet you can't help but root for him.
You can't.
He's the heart of the show in many ways.
He is.
All right, we've covered the humor, the characters, the general fuckery of it all.
Yeah.
But what about those iconic catchphrases? Surely there are a few we need to address.
Well, there's the classic "I have a cunning plan" from Baldric, which never fails to elicit a groan and a chuckle.
And a Blackadder signature, "I'm as happy as a Frenchman who's invented a pair of self-removing shoes."
Precisely. And then there's Melchet's bombastic BAAH, which is always good for a laugh.
All right, before we move on, I'm curious, what do you think it is about Blackadder that still resonates with audiences today? I mean, why are we still talking about this show after all these years?
Well, for starters, it's bloody funny.
Yeah, we've established that, but there's got to be more to it than just laughs, right?
I suppose.
What makes it stand the test of time?
I think it's the combination of sharp wit, clever writing, and its ability to find humor in history.
Okay.
Even the dark and absurd parts.
It's educational in a way, but never preachy.
Right.
And let's be honest, who doesn't love seeing those in power get taken down a peg or two?
Right. It's like they're saying, hey, the world's a messed up place.
It is.
But at least we can laugh at the bastards who are messing it up.
Exactly.
All right, that's a good place to wrap up part 1.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere, you lovely lot.
Right.
Grab a pint, take a piss, whatever you need to do.
Whatever you need.
We'll be back in a jiffy to delve deeper into the world of Blackadder. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Right then, let's pick up where we left off. You were asking about Blackadder's enduring appeal, why it's still so damn popular after all these years.
Damn straight. It's been around for decades, and people are still obsessed with it. It's not just some random sitcom. It's practically a cultural institution.
Precisely. I think a big part of it is Blackadder's knack for finding humor in history, even in the darkest corners of it.
Yeah, they even managed to make the French Revolution funny. Now, that's some serious comedic talent, squeezing laughs out of bloody guillotines and pissed-off peasants.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Whether it's the sheer incompetence of medieval monarchs or the horrors of trench warfare, Blackadder finds a way to make you laugh even when you probably shouldn't.
It's like they're saying, hey, history's a shit show, but let's at least have a laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Exactly. And that irreverence is refreshing, especially when so much of history is presented in a dry academic way. Blackadder makes it accessible, relatable, and, dare I say, even enjoyable.
All right, we've talked about the humor, the characters, the historical shenanigans, but let's not forget about the writing. These scripts are packed with sharp dialogue, clever wordplay, and some of the most savage insults ever uttered on television.
Absolutely. The writing is top-notch. It's sharp, witty, and endlessly quotable.
Hit me with an example, mate. Give me a line that'll make me sound like a fucking genius at the pub.
All right, how about this exchange from Blackadder Goes Forth, where Blackadder describes General Melchet's plan as cunning as a fox who's just been appointed professor of cunning at Oxford University.
Fucking brilliant. You can practically hear the eye roll in that one.
Right, and then there's this gem from Blackadder III where Blackadder says, "I'm as bored as a pacifist at a war."
Savage. Wait, it's like they took a scalpel to the English language and dissected it with surgical precision.
And let's not forget about the sheer density of the jokes. They pack so much humor into every scene. You practically need a rewind button just to catch it all. It's like a comedic assault on your senses.
It's exhausting, but in the best possible way.
Exactly, and it's that combination of witty dialogue, clever wordplay, and rapid-fire delivery that makes Blackadder so damn addictive you never know what's coming next.
Okay, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the historical context of Blackadder. Each series is set in a different period, but they're not exactly historically accurate, are they?
No, not at all. Blackadder plays fast and loose with historical facts, but that's part of the fun. It's not a history lesson. It's a comedy that uses history as a playground for its own brand of absurd humor.
Yeah, they take some serious liberties with the past. Queen Elizabeth probably didn't have a pet monkey named Boo Boo, did she?
Highly doubtful, but that's the beauty of it. Blackadder takes historical figures and events and twists them into these ludicrous caricatures, highlighting the absurdity of power and the follies of human nature.
So it's more about capturing the spirit of the time rather than getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty details.
Exactly. It's about finding the funny in the past, even if it means bending the truth a little bit or a lot.
All right, so they're not afraid to take a few creative liberties. But do you think there's any educational value to Blackadder? Can we learn anything from watching these historical hijinks?
Absolutely. While it shouldn't be your primary source for historical information, Blackadder can spark an interest in the past and encourage viewers to dig deeper to learn more about the periods it depicts. Think of it as a gateway drug to history.
Right, so it might inspire some viewers to ditch the Netflix and actually pick up a history book for once.
Exactly. It might just be the thing that makes history come alive for people who find traditional textbooks boring.
All right, let's have some fun with this. If they were to make a new Blackadder series today, which historical period do you think they should tackle?
That's a great question. They could have a field day with the Victorian era, with Blackadder as a ruthless industrialist or a conniving politician exploiting the working class while spouting witty one-liners.
Yeah, I can see Blackadder as a top hat wearing tycoon crushing the competition with his cutting wit and questionable business practices. Or maybe they could set it in the swinging 60s with Blackadder as a cynical mod or a hapless hippie.
Now, that would be a sight to behold. Blackadder in a mini skirt and go-go boots, dropping acid and dodging the draft. The possibilities are endless.
All right, that's a good place to pause for a breath. We've laughed, we've learned, and we've pondered the hypothetical future of Blackadder. Don't wander off, folks. Grab another pint, have a fag, whatever you need. Part 3 is coming up next, and we're going to dive into some of the more controversial aspects of this beloved sitcom Shears. All right, you degenerates, welcome back for the final round of our Blackadder deep dive. We've laughed, we've learned, we've probably offended a few history buffs along the way. Now let's stir the pot a bit and talk about some of the more controversial aspects of this beloved sitcom.
Controversial, perhaps a bit strong, but certainly certain elements of Blackadder have sparked debate over the years.
Right, like that whole goodbye episode, the final episode of Blackadder goes forth. It's a classic, no doubt, but some people find it a bit too heavy, a bit too real for a sitcom.
It's a powerful ending. There's no denying that it breaks away from the traditional sitcom formula and throws you headfirst into the grim realities of war. It's both hilarious and heartbreaking, and it sticks with you long after the credits roll.
Yeah, they didn't shy away from the horrors of trench warfare, did they?
Yeah.
Rets for dinner, mud for coffee, and then that final scene with the characters going over the top into no man's land.
Yeah.
It's a punch, man. A comedic gut punch, but a gut punch nonetheless.
Precisely. It's a reminder that even amidst the absurdity and the witty banter, these characters are ultimately trapped in a situation beyond their control for all their scheming and cynicism. They're still pawns in a much larger and far more tragic game.
Right. It's like they're saying even the cleverest bastard can't outsmart a machine gun.
Exactly, and I think that message delivered through the lens of comedy makes it all the more impactful.
All right, so Goodbye takes us to a dark place, but what about some of the other criticisms leveled at Blackadder? Some people find it a bit too highbrow, a bit too intellectual for their taste. They want their sitcom simple with fart jokes and pratfalls, not witty wordplay and historical references.
Well, Blackadder certainly isn't afraid to engage your brain. It demands a certain level of attention from the viewer, and it's not afraid to use sophisticated language, historical allusions, and even a bit of wordplay. It's not for the faint of heart or the simple of mind.
Yeah, you can't just zone out and watch Blackadder. You got to be on your toes, ready to catch those rapid-fire jokes and subtle digs. It's a workout for your funny bone and your brain cells.
Precisely, and I think that's one of the reasons why it has such a devoted following. It's a show that rewards multiple viewings. You catch something new, some clever turn of phrase or historical reference every time you watch it.
Right, it's got layers like a fucking onion. Speaking of layers, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Blackadder's politics. Some people accuse the show of having a left-wing bias, while others claim it's actually quite conservative. What's the truth? Is Blackadder a bleeding heart liberal or a closet Tory?
I think it's much more nuanced than that. Blackadder is a satire of power, and it takes aim at anyone in a position of authority, regardless of their political leanings, whether it's the bumbling monarchs of the early series, the out-of-touch aristocrats of the Regency era, or the incompetent generals of World War I. Blackadder finds humor in the absurdity and hypocrisy of those in charge.
Yeah, they're equal opportunity offenders. Nobody's safe from their sharp wit and satirical jabs.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes Blackadder so enduringly relevant. It speaks to the timeless follies of human nature. Regardless of the specific political context, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Blackadder is there to point out the absurdity of it all.
Right, it's like they're saying the world's a mess, the people in charge are idiots, but at least we can laugh at their incompetence.
Precisely.
All right, before we wrap up this Blackadder bonanza, I got to ask, what do you think is the show's ultimate message? What's the takeaway for us mere mortals slogging through this crazy thing called life?
That's a good question. I think at its heart, Blackadder is a show about resilience, about finding humor in the face of adversity, even when the world seems determined to kick you in the balls. It's a reminder that no matter how bleak things get, there's always room for laughter, for wit, for finding the absurd in the mundane.
Right. It's like they're saying life's a shit sandwich, but at least we've got Blackadder to wash it down with.
Exactly. And that's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did when the show first aired.
Well, folks, that's it for our deep dive into the world of Blackadder. We've laughed, we've learned, we've probably offended a few people along the way, but hopefully we've also left you with a newfound appreciation for this brilliant and timeless sitcom. So go forth, you magnificent bastards, and spread the gospel of Blackadder. And if you ever find yourself feeling down, just remember there's always a cunning plan. Well, maybe not a cunning plan, but at least there's Blackadder cheers always.